Hi, I'm Charlotte Canny from Birth Essence, and today on the Birth Confidence Summit, I am welcoming Jennie Harrison. Jennie Harrison is an energy healer and trauma specialist helping mums and their little ones to feel better and have a thriving life. So welcome, Jennie.
Hi Charlotte, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really grateful. So tell me a little bit more about your own journey to becoming a mother.
I I always wanted to be a mum. Like for as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a mum. And when I became pregnant, I was overjoyed, and I had an amazing pregnancy. I read a book at the beginning of my pregnancy called The Secret Life of the Unborn Child, and it was the best thing I could have read because it completely changed everything I did. I stopped being stressed at work. I looked after myself. I gained an understanding of what was going on for my baby, even though he hadn't been born. So yeah, it was an amazing pregnancy. And then we did have a difficult time when it came to his birth, which I wasn't expecting, and it did kind of floor me. But I took a lot of learning from it, and yeah. So yeah, at first I've had two different pregnancies, two different births. An amazing pregnancy with one, difficult birth, and then the second time was quite a stressful pregnancy but amazing birth. So I got to see and experience both sides of it.
And what's the question? How did you support yourself after the difficult birth the first time? What happened for you with that?
For me, I really wanted to understand why, because it didn't feel right that it had happened that way. And I mean, firstly, I made sure I was supported. I had a lot of energy healing to release the trauma. My son had energy healing as well. He had cranial osteopathy because it was forceps, so he had some physical support there. And I also had CBT because I got post-traumatic stress disorder afterwards. But the main thing for me was energy healing. I don't think I'd have coped without it. It was difficult, but I made a complaint to the hospital because my birth was mismanaged. I wasn't. I was just so positive and so sure of how amazing it could be, and it could, but I wasn't educated in the fact that it was my choices when we got to the hospital, and I was disempowered at the hospital, and interventions took place that I wasn't happy with, and I was prevented from giving birth in the way that I wanted to. So once I knew that information, I got an apology from the hospital, but it meant that I had that information afterwards. That for the second time, I knew that they were my choices. That it was my baby, my body, my birth, my pregnancy, and they were my choices ultimately, and it wasn't for anyone else to decide. So yeah, I learned a huge amount, and actually, it wasn't an experience that I would have wished for, but I'm incredibly grateful for it now because I wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing if I hadn't had that birth experience, and I wouldn't have the understanding that I have for my clients now if I hadn't have had that birth experience. So yeah, I am grateful.
Tell me a little bit more about.
Buddy, it's okay. Buddy, it's okay. Post. Stop. Shh. Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Hey, come back. Okay.
Tell me a little bit more about how you turned that experience into what you do now. How you now support what you see.
Days after I'd given birth to Dexter, I was at home. I trained as a Reiki practitioner before I got pregnant, and actually I think that was part of what kept me really, really calm throughout the pregnancy. But days after, I knew that something big, like that, I couldn't have gone through that and not have something positive come out of it. It had to have some kind of positive outcome from it. You know, something positive had to come from it. And I couldn't go back to work. I mean, I worked in consultancy with vulnerable children, improving outcomes for them. So, working with vulnerable children when you've become a parent, and you know that you've got that vulnerability yourself, felt harder for me. But I had really, really bad separation anxiety with him. I couldn't leave him. So I set up my own business, and I wanted to help mums to feel really calm so that they could conceive, to have really calm pregnancies, and to support mums if they do have a difficult birth. So, buddy, the children are out of the house, but the dog. So yeah, that's where it started. And my first client had exactly the same birth that I did. And it started from there 8 years ago. And I haven't looked back.
Wonderful, yeah. So what do you notice that mothers need and their little ones need when that you kind of answering a call?
It doesn't matter what a mum has come to for me over the years, come to me for, whether it's been sleep, because I've worked with a lot of children who struggle to sleep, whether it's behavioural stuff, you know, overwhelm, really sensitive children that just struggle, whether it's anxiety, eating issues. 90% of those children have had some kind of difficult pregnancy or birth. It might not be translated as trauma, but it can be that there was a lot of stress during pregnancy, or it can be that there was some difficulties during birth that the children are then holding on to. So, and it comes out in so many ways. You know, it's the first experience of coming into this world, isn't it? It's the imprint of being born. And I find that a lot of the mums that I work with are the mums that, you know, they have been disempowered. They haven't known that they can say, hang on a minute, no. And they're the ones that feel that they haven't been heard. And it's reflected in how they feel as a mum. You know, it's the baby's first experience of being born. It's their first experience of becoming a mum. Sometimes it's the second or third, but they're all unique experiences, aren't they? And it's to see mums who've gone through that and see how disempowered they become actually as mums. See how they view themselves and their capabilities and their potential as a mum and what they can do. And for the children, you know, the impact it can have, it's every level, physical, mental, emotional, energetic, all of it. So there can be some huge transformations to be made when I work with people.
And you find that whether you work with the mums and with the little ones, is that right?
Always.
Yeah, like a dyad together.
Yeah, I don't. If there's ever been any, I mean, I don't ever work with little ones and not work with the mum, because you find very often that even if there's not been difficulty at birth, there'll be something that mum's holding on to that little ones pick up on, because they're connected. You know, they grow inside us. We feel them, they feel us, and that doesn't stop when we give birth. And so much of what goes on in our lives every single day, you know, they're picking up on us and we're picking up on them. It's a beautiful connection that is completely unique, but it does mean that it's important to look after mum as well as little ones, and have an understanding as well. You know, it's not just the mum that would have gone through a difficult time if they have done at birth or had a stressful pregnancy. This is the child's experience as well. And I don't see many people at all working with supporting children with birth trauma or birth difficulty or stressful pregnancy. There's amazing support out there mums. Amazing support, but not so much for children. So it's really, really important for me that I work with both.
How do you work with the children? What do you do with them? They're obviously very small, they can't talk. Well, maybe some of the older ones can, but some of the babies are...
I don't connect with them directly. So because it's energy work that I do, and all of my business is, I have clients all over the world. My business is online. So the sessions I do with mums are either on the phone or on Skype, and then I do energy work with them. So I connect to mum and the little one, and energetically open the energy field up and remove the trauma, because any trauma that is experienced is held within the body. It's held in the cells, it's held in the energy system, and when that's held, it creates blockages on an emotional, physical, mental level. It affects the nervous system, the digestive system, and when you work energetically, you can connect in and remove the trauma, remove the difficult emotions, to get both the mum and the little one into a place of balance. So I don't talk directly, physically, to the children. The work is all through the mums, and then I do the energy work for both of them.
Okay, yeah, I get that. I understand, yeah. And so, what would you say to someone who's preparing for birth now to support them to have more like your second birth that you had, the one where you were informed?
Yeah. First thing is connection, like giving yourself the space to connect with yourself first, making special time each day, even if it's just 15 minutes. Go to bed 15 minutes earlier and do a meditation, or do some EFT, or something that connects you with yourself. This is a special time, and once you're connected to yourself, it's connecting to your baby. Create that connection, talk to them, be aware of the fact that they are not just cells. And I talk about this with my clients, that don't imagine your baby at a certain stage as a cluster of cells. Your baby's there, the soul of your baby is there, the personality of your baby is there. When they're born, they are an actual person. They're an actual person when they're inside you. If you imagine your baby already born, their personality coming out, whatever stage you are in pregnancy, allow yourself to kind of imagine that personality there already and connect with them. Understand that this is not just a physical process, that just as it's emotional and energetic and a mental process for you as well, it's exactly the same for them. Read a book like The Secret Life of the Unborn Child, because it's just absolutely fascinating. It's completely mind-opening, life-changing. And it was written in like the early 80s with research going back to the 1940s. It's amazing. So connection to yourself, connection to your little one, understand what's going on for you, understand what's going on for them. Connection with people that can support you along your journey, who will be your cheerleaders. Not people who are in fear, not people who want to kind of push you back. This is a time to really step into who you are. When you become a mum, you change completely. It's like you get cracked open and your true self steps out. It's an amazing experience. But you need people there who will cheer you on. And what made the difference for me in my second pregnancy was having a doula. My second pregnancy, because I was over 40 and I'd had a traumatic birth, I'd also had a partial mole and miscarriage. And the main thing was I was over 40, so that meant the whole world was going to fall apart, and I couldn't possibly give birth in the same way, because I was 5.5 years older than my first birth. Everything was going to go wrong. And they told me, they just said, like, they didn't think I would question it. Right, okay, so we'll induce you on your due date then, and we'll take away your placenta for testing, and you'll have this test and this test. I was like, no.
What did they want to test your placenta for?
Because with a partial mole of pregnancy, you can. There's a high risk of cancer. I'd gone through that, and I hadn't had cancer, and I'd come through the side. You are, if you are more prone to have a molar pregnancy again, but molar pregnancies always miscarry within the first trimester.
So you knew it wasn't. Yeah.
You're giving birth, it's not likely you're going to have. I mean, it can be possible, but I was just like, no, I've already connected with the specialist hospital. They can have a blood sample afterwards. It's fine. So, and I had to, it did feel like a fight sometimes during that pregnancy, but because I was well informed, if I hadn't been informed, if I hadn't been supported, if I hadn't been empowered, I would have been taken in, on my due date, induced, and I know that it would have been the same outcome because of my build, and because I'm quite narrow, and I have a tilted cervix, and my children's dad has a big head, so I have children with big heads. I had to be in a certain position, and I was able to give birth naturally at home in the birthing pool with just gas and air to an £8.12 pound baby, 12.5 ounce baby. We did it, but I was told all the way through that I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was connected to myself, I was connected to my baby, I was connected to the support that I needed, and I was empowered. And when I gave birth at home, the midwives that came said they couldn't even tell what stage labour I was in because of the way I connected into myself and my body and my baby. So know that you can do it. You have everything you need inside you, but it's tapping into the information that you need and the support that you need and the cheerleaders and becoming that mama bear. When a consultant turned around to me, I said, can you release me to midwifery led care, please, so I can have my home birth? And she said, she gave me all of the arguments, why not, but you had forceps. I'm like, yes, that was an error on the part of the hospital. Then she laughed at me. I said, please just go and refer it to the lead consultant and come back with my yes. And she came back and she looked through my notes. She said, oh, you are brave, aren't you, having a home birth? You must have a very high pain threshold. Oh, no, you had an epidural last time. Really trying to undermine me. So all of that I could have just been having the same experience. And Violet's birth did take quite a while because it took a while for her to navigate down and for me to get into the right position. And I remember thinking, oh, this feels like it's taking ages. And I knew for how long it was taking, they would have said, no, failure to progress in hospital. And, but I had the right support there. It was like, no, this is not happening. She's fine. Come on, you can do it. And at one point I said, take her to the hospital and get her out. And they said, no, you're giving birth here. You're going to do this. And within half an hour, she was here.
Yeah.
So, it is really about getting empowered and supported and connected and knowing you can do it.
Women are very strong. It's very strong to stay true to what you know, your truth, when you're getting essentially gaslighted by a consultant and by lots of other little messages that are saying, no, you can't do it, you can't do it. You're saying, I can do it, no, you can't, I can't. It is really, that's a drip of negativity, and you chose to hear a different tune.
Yeah,
It started from within you, so it wasn't like false. It wasn't a false, I can do it. It was coming from you. The answer came there. Then you looked for people to support it, which is really strong.
She was born on the day that I'd been summoned to go back and have a scan at 40 plus 12. They're like, okay, we'll give you till then, but then you must be monitored daily. And I knew that they would try and induce me if I went in, and she was born on that day.
I love that you were able to let her come on the day she wanted, because she would have been 2 weeks early if been induced. I was over 40 with my third child, but I had an independent midwife, so I didn't have to go through that, and that was why I chose an independent midwife, because I didn't want that fight. So it's very strong And my going through that and hoping that that maybe changes some people's perspectives when they, on whatever level, that you did it your way and it was the right thing for you to do.
I saw it with both midwives that attended, because the one midwife, she was so experienced, and I was so grateful to have her there because I did tear, and I was able to stay in the sunroom because she was so experienced, and she just stitched me there in the sunroom. It was fine. I didn't have to go into hospital or anything, and she was so calm. And actually, the other midwife texted me afterwards and said, "Thank you so much for giving me the privilege of attending such an amazing birth," which meant a lot when I was, exhausted the next day. But you could see, and I had quite a lot of blood loss, and I'd made the choice to have my placenta encapsulated, so I'd had that afterwards. My iron levels didn't drop. I was told to go back in. The midwife could not believe what was being done with my placenta. She couldn't believe it. And when she said, "You must come in and have a blood test because there's no way you're not going to be anemic after that amount of blood loss." And I went in and my iron levels were higher than a normal person because of my placenta encapsulation. So it's just, standing there. And also Violet had a massive hematoma from where her head had been in slightly the wrong position. And she just had homeopathy. She just had arnica afterwards. And they couldn't believe the difference in that a day later as well. So being really empowered in my choices and seeing the difference in, she was amazed in, how this had worked and what we'd done. So yeah, to know that you can change someone's perception makes a difference for all the other people that follow, doesn't it?
We can do so much more with our bodies than I think we're led to believe. And I also find them, like the natural remedies like that, we've forgotten them. And arnica, I found that really, really useful for the after pains, which no one had really told me about. I didn't go to enough classes, I think. And so I wasn't expecting after pains, but they were very strong and long for my second, I think, because I didn't have any remedies prepared. But the third child, I had the arnica. And I also ate more of the placenta. I ate mine in a smoothie. I did have placenta encapsulation for the second, but I chose to just eat more of it over the first few days for the third. That felt what I wanted to do. And again, I do
I
think
had mine in the
difference
well.
for the energy. Yeah, they're eating it like that straight away. And for anyone who's going, "Oh, that's weird," that's a cultural conditioning that I'd like to challenge. We are mammals, and it's so beneficial from the iron loss, whether you've had blood loss or not, from those nutrients. Mine straight away in the beginning. I found that my placenta had a real energy to it that was like a wise woman energy. My friend was helping me cut it up into pieces to eat it, and the first time she was doing it, she was pregnant, and it had an effect on her body with it felt really, I could tune into the placenta energy for the next few days and feel like wisdom and supported, like as a support for me in some way. That felt like it had its own identity, its own support for me. Like it was a way for me to tap into the support I needed, and that came both in that energy way, but it also came, I believe, in the physical nutrient way. Those nutrients. And my placenta for my third was enormous. I mean, he was enormous, and he had an enormous placenta, so I had a fair amount of it. And in the smoothie, if anyone's wondering, you can't. It's not like you're eating raw meat. You make it into a smoothie. So the smoothie's like smoothie. It's banana and fruit. So it tasted for me. It tasted banana and fruit. So that really, I really felt the connection energetically as I did that, and the nutrients, physical nutrients, and it did help me. So I think it's worth considering.
I tore. I had a big bleed. The contractions really, really kicked in at 10 o'clock at night, and she was born at 1:07 the next afternoon. So it wasn't really quick, but it was fine. So there was and she was quite big, and all I took was homeopathic remedies, hypericum and arnica, and I took a combination remedy for post childbirth, And when I got mastitis, I took a different remedy then, and I didn't even take a paracetamol. I didn't need to, because it was all there, and just because I connected into myself and what I knew my body needed and what I knew my baby needed. It yeah, and it's amazing the difference it makes.
We definitely underestimate what we can know ourselves by connecting in, and if we don't have the answers yet through lack of knowledge, if it's your first time and there might be some things, practical things like the arnica, we can get the hit to where to go to get those answers, like this interview for example. It's true, there might be someone goes, oh, I never knew you could do that with
No,
or I never
exactly.
knew you could take arnica. I didn't know I could take arnica for the after pain, so I didn't know they were going to happen. So the birth itself was very fast and easy for my second, but the pain after pains went on longer than the birth did, very strong, and they were harder to handle than the contractions for me personally of the birth. But then when I took the arnica, that changed it completely. It was completely different, and so that was a really beneficial thing that I didn't know, that maybe now some people will know. And for me, the honouring of the placenta in a ritual was really important to me. It's in my husband's tradition as well, and in his culture, he's from the Gambia, they bury it, they have rituals with it, so that was important for me as well, and it made it feel like I was valued and the birth was valued, the placenta valued. Bringing all that together was really great. That's not very eloquent. I don't think of a better adjective. It felt like belonging to something, and connection to me.
And that's so important, whether it's your first, second, third, it's still the beginning of another journey. And I think for me, with my first, having gone through that experience, nothing could prepare me for the relentlessness, and it was so important to have connection and understanding, and to know that I could tap into my inner knowledge, and my inner power. And that came through so much more with my second.
Wonderful. It's a practice, isn't it, as well, like you said, practicing in your pregnancy to do it, and then you could do that during the labour as well. And I know you support women to learn how to do that, and that it doesn't have to take a long time, a little bit each day, and practice. And
it can take no time at all. I've got my own business, 2 children, I'm a single parent, I have a dog, as you heard earlier, and I manage to have a self-care practice that keeps me, as me, rather than losing it, rather than getting stressed all the time, and connected to my children and able to give them what they need, which is, what it's about, and about me becoming who I'm meant to be, so I can support
really important
Yeah.
It's really important for new mothers to hear, as we kind of forget ourselves in this looking after the baby, the new transition to the family, the new roles we take on. We kind of sometimes, I know I did a bit taking on the new roles and forgetting about ourselves in a new role. So we just got the new role of motherhood that's for about everybody else. And then there's the new role of who you are. And that is really supportive to have that practice for yourself.
Well, definitely. And I think, you can feel like you've lost part of you, and there are aspects of your life that completely change, and some go back and some don't, and friendships change and your life changes. But I think if within each day you understand that you are connecting into yourself and you make that time, and with every single day that you spend with your children, you are learning more, you are becoming more, you are growing as a person, and there will be, you change into someone different, you expand, you grow as soon as you become a mum, and to tap into that and to really understand that even on the really hard days where you can't see any light at the end of the tunnel, even on the nights when you haven't slept, to know that you are growing as a person, and one day you will look back. I know it's annoying when people say it. You will look back and think, actually, I learned so much then. And you can look back and look at how much you've grown. and who you have become, and be really proud of yourself.
That's wonderful. What would be your vision for the future of birth and motherhood?
For everyone to have an understanding of every aspect of pregnancy and birth and motherhood, that we're not just physical beings, you know, that babies, unborn babies, have emotions, and that we do hold everything, whether it's stuff that happened to us at school when we were 6, or whether it's what happened in our own birth, or whether it's working for somebody who was really horrible and bullied us. It doesn't matter what it is, we hold it all. To have an understanding that when you make the decision to become a parent, to educate yourself on every aspect of that and be willing to let go of all the stuff that's been holding you back, means that we are going to raise a generation of children that don't have the same level of baggage as we do in our 30s and 40s or 20s. You know, that they're not going to have the same stuff to process. If we educate ourselves on the fact that we hold everything energetically, that every single cell that we have is made of energy, it's not a spiritual thing, it's scientific. You know, we are made of atoms, which are all energy. That our children have the same, that they are emotional beings before they're born. You know, only 30 years ago, doctors believed that babies didn't feel pain. You know, they know differently now. So it would be nice if it doesn't take another 30 years before they understand that babies have emotions, like way before birth.
Yeah.
So to have that broad understanding of, you know, us as a whole would be amazing. And for women to have the techniques, to have the understanding, to know what they can do to support themselves and their children. That's my vision.
Beautiful. I love that. It's so great to have an awareness of the babies being a human being, because I know that I've gone back to my own birth experience, which I don't remember consciously, and experiencing the emotions and it's in us. We don't consciously remember those memories. No. Usually some do, but usually but we can go into a state where it comes back into the consciousness because it's there as like a blueprint somewhere. So that's why it's so wonderful, the work to change that, to look at that in one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, my mum said to me that giving birth to me and my sisters was like podding peas. So I was like, yes, this is just going to be great. And she did have really easy birth with us, but I was separated from my mum on the first night after I was born. I was born in the 70s, so I was just taken off to the nursery and put in the nursery with a load of other babies, and found it really hard because the pregnancy had been stressful. So, you know, she was my safe place. And I grew up with massive separation anxiety, and a really, really deep fear of my mum dying. And I didn't understand where it had come from until afterwards. You know, until I'd had Violet. We were separated for a short amount of time when I was being stitched up in the sunroom. And it triggered my own separation. Okay, that's where that's always come from. And I was able then to go back, and I could feel, you know, went back and really felt it. And it's amazing how many women I work with who come to me because their children aren't sleeping or are suffering with separation anxiety. It goes to birth. We go to work on the birth experience. And I say, what was your birth experience like? And it might not have been exactly the same, but the emotions were the same, or
there's a link somewhere.
Yeah. And it's how trauma's passed down through the generations, isn't it?
Yeah, this is exactly what I find in the work I do. We do it differently, but we do a similar thing. And I find that patterns repeat until they have healed, and they can repeat louder and louder until you've got the message. So, you know, you can have a traumatic birth because your own was, or maybe it wasn't, but there's some aspect, something you need to see. And then the further back, even the silencing of women, the silencing of women's wisdom, which, like you said, you weren't empowered in your first birth. There's an imprinting, and that showed up in you. You've done the work to change that for your second, so you're healing right back to the way, you know, when women have been silenced further, and those imprinting, that's part of your path. And so I think it's wonderful to have an awareness that that is possible, because the transformation then is for the mother and the future of generations as well. And it's absolutely amazing what can, you know, that's my kind of confidence work is from a lot of it stems from my own personal experience of being born and then healing that. And it's an ongoing thing of deeper layers for me, because I'm in this fear, so I keep going for deeper layers, but it's amazing what the shift and transformation can be.
We're always a work in progress. You know, there'll always be stuff that comes up in layers. It's always there to be healing, but we have the opportunity now to stop like these generational patterns from going on. You know, we have a choice. You know, sometimes we are put under stress, we do have difficult experiences, things can be traumatic, but we have a choice in how we deal with it afterwards. We have a choice in whether we free the following generations from that. And, you know, it's the most empowering thing to do as a mother, to say, I choose to, you know, to stop this now. I've got a client that I've worked with, that the fear that was being held with her and her daughter stemmed from 7 generations before, where something difficult had happened for a mother and her daughter, and it had been passed down 7 generations, and we've been working to heal that. It's amazing. It's amazing what we can do.
I'm really glad to hear that. I hope that people are listening will be able to have some new ideas or thoughts, of just knowing what they can do, the transformation that is possible.
Yeah.
What would you suggest as a starting point for someone who's, you know, feeling fears and not sure where they're from as they're approaching the time to give birth?
Whether it's fears about birth, whatever it is, the first thing I do is get it out of my head. And it's what I advise my clients to do as well, is to get a journal, write it out, or if you don't want people to read it, you can get apps to have in your phone so you can lock it. Get it out of your head, look at what are the beliefs that you've got there, you know, because they're stories that you're holding. They've come from somewhere, they're not facts. They're stories about another experience or someone else's experience or something that you're holding energetically. So to get them out of your head, and then it is looking at ways to release them. You know, I refer people to EFT, or I do energy work for my clients, or, you know, I meditated every single day in my pregnancies. You know, just to give yourself the space to connect into who you really are. You know, that can make a massive difference. So it is about creating this space for yourself to connect. It's the first thing to do.
Excellent, thank you so much. That's really great. I also do that. They get things out of my head where they can like run around and mock, and you don't know what's real because they're all running around. Get it out of your head, those thoughts.
Attracting more in as they go around.
Running their own little party. Totally irrelevant of the reality.
You need white chestnut bachelor remedy when that happens.
Yeah, that can happen to me, and then I get that. Thank you for that. So, do you have any final insights or thoughts that you might not have said for anybody listening to take away?
I don't think that I haven't said, but just that you have everything inside you. You have the knowledge, you have the capability, you have everything. You know, it's not an accident that our children come to us. They choose us, and they choose us for a reason. And there are lessons for you to learn, and there are lessons for them to learn. But ultimately, you have everything you need inside you. You just have to tap into it and give yourself the support and the understanding that you need to facilitate the change in you.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be very helpful. And thank you for giving of your time today to talk about your story and the ways in which you help women. I hope it's very inspiring for.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you.